And it's time for our lake effect snow. It has been coming down. It's going to continue to come down, and that's why we have lake effect snow warnings for Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. And we really need it in some locations. It is the have or the have-nots here. And with this fetch of wind, it is cutting across the lake. So it will give us some snow, but you get much more snow if the fetch is going over the entire length of the lake. But this is cutting across. Doesn't mean you don't get snow. It's just not as much. But there'll be plenty because through today, Friday, Saturday, into Sunday, we could get a couple feet in some spots for us. Buffalo, we need the snow.
They're back in school, so they're not making snowballs anyway. Step into you.
We can't believe it that they're back in school already in Jamestown. I feel like they're the first people back on this January 2nd, the second day of the new year. Go get warm because I know that wind chill is pretty brutal out there this morning with the 20s gusting near 30 miles an hour. So that's going to make it feel even colder than it says on the thermometer. That's one area of snow. We're seeing another little band of snow that's coming through the Midwest. And this one is going to drop 1 to 3 inches for us. Not too much associated with it. And then we have our next system behind it that's going to be the big weather maker. We've been watching this batch of snow. It's now into Des Moines, just when we were expecting it. There is a snow squall warning that has shifted with the system. Wind's not too strong with this, around 15 miles an hour, but any sort of, blowing snow can take that visibility down. Also have to watch for those snowfall rates at 1 inch an hour or more. I-80 is definitely tough out there, and this is all going to continue. It's going to take a bit to get through Des Moines for us here, but notice we still have some of that lighter snow stretching along I-80 here, kind of straddling the highway here, 35 that cuts right through Iowa there. So we are going to see this system, and that is going to make the roads pretty messy. They're pretty rough as you look west of 35, and I think as this continues to move east, I-80 could turn pink, which means that it is snow covered. And as we go through the day, notice it holds together. It falls apart though once it crosses over really into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. It's not great looking. I mean, it holds together, Reynolds, but it's going to lose some of its oomph.
There you go. The oomph that we're back.
We've got a lot of sunshine in the Midwest, but boy, have we got quite a potent little snow squall. Line of snow that is moving through Des Moines right now. This is moving about 25 miles an hour off to the east. The winds with this not too strong, around 15 miles an hour or less. But when you have snow coming down at 1 inch an hour, even just the slightest little breeze can really take down that visibility. Of course, make the roads very slick and slippery. Here's a look. By the way, these are Eastern time. No, now we're back to Central time, right? Yeah, now we're back to Central time. Okay, they were Eastern, but now we've shifted back. So this is coming into all of these towns. Ames, you're really next on the list here as it's moving through Clive and Des Moines right now and is making its way into Ames. We do have just some thicker clouds right there. The same into Des Moines, but there is that snow coming in. Visibility is at 10 miles, though Ames down to 3/4 of a mile, actually. And that heavier snow, once it comes in, will drop that visibility into places like Des Moines as well. I-80 is rough if you're headed west out of Des Moines. And even if you're going east, I think that because this is headed east, our conditions are going to start to deteriorate here. So anticipate maybe a little more time if you are driving eastbound out of Des Moines with this system coming through. This, of course, is kind of the appetizer, Jim, to the big system that's going to be coming in with more snow. And then it's going to, of course, cause severe weather to the south.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not too far removed from last week's step. Big impact.
There is going to be a big and it is going to be wide-reaching. In fact, the storm is going to go from the northwest all the way to the east coast. And thanks to our virtual view technology, I'm standing in Kansas City, where we've had a pretty mild start to the year with a high of 45 today. But as Winter Storm Blair sweeps across the Central Plains, the city of Fountains is going to see heavy snow and hazardous icing starting on Saturday night. And don't forget all the fountains. I was just thinking about it. With the cold air advection behind this, I wonder what they're going to do with those fountains. Do they turn them all off for the winter? And maybe they do that every year. I'm going to have to Google that and see what they do for the fountains here in Kansas City over the wintertime, because there is very cold air coming in. I mean, pipe freezing air coming in. So make sure you take care of your property and your family as well. We do have a messy Saturday into Sunday. Sunday night will improve. Monday, the sun comes back. Notice the wind, though. That's going to give these numbers a real drop. We'll see significant wind chill with this as well. So here's our first little system. This has nothing to do with Big Blair coming in, but it is still giving us some squall squally weather, and it is moving through Des Moines right now. Watch out along I-80. We have treacherous conditions for us. We've already seen a couple inches fall from this, 1 to 2.5 inches coming down. And overall, you could see an inch an hour here, but it's kind of that 1 to 3 inch range for our snowfall with this system. Then our next system comes in, and we have winter storm watches from Nebraska to Kansas. I think we'll see this, not I think. Advisories are going to expand in the coming days. The fact that this isn't hitting till the weekend is why we don't quite have them yet, because our energy is out in the Pacific. So there is the west coast, right, of the U.S. There's our pieces of energy. Those are going to come in. They're drawn nicely here on the map. Those are going to come into the northwest as we head into our Friday and then dive over cold air. But by the way, on the backside of this, it's going to evect in even colder temperatures. So this is kind of the overall generic forecast for you. 12 to 18 inches. We have quite a swath from really Nebraska all the way to Delaware. But here's the thing. We've got warm air that could sneak in. So you could start in Kansas City. Kansas City, we might be more in that 7-9 range, because you could start as maybe sleet or freezing rain, and that will take away from your snow totals. So that's something that we have to watch for with this system, and we will continue to watch that as we go over time. Same thing with icing. Paducah, I'll show you in our forecast, you could get a little rain into Paducah. That could take down your icing totals, which would be phenomenal, right? Because right now, when you're talking 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, you're going to see the trees droop. You're going to see the power lines struggle as well. Even a trace to 1/4 of an inch, you still could have spotty power outages, and you might not be able to travel even with that, because even just a glaze can destroy travel. So it all really starts to come together Saturday. Starts cranking as we head into our Sunday. And if you looked at those first few frames, some of this, sleet, freezing rain mixed stuff was into Kansas City. Then it changes over to snow, and that could make a difference in your forecast. Same with Paducah. We're right on that line. The big question is it going to stay cold enough for that icing down at the surface, or are we going to see warming throughout, Jim, and get more rain? So we're going to keep watching this very closely here over the next several days.
I think the hardest part of this is realizing.
Live there, this is what they live for. And you got to love snow if you live there, because we get it so much. Justin, go warm up, especially the hands, right? It's like there's nothing you can ever do to keep the fingers warm. They say wear mittens, they're better for you. What I do is I wear gloves and then mittens over that to double up on my hands, because it just feels like you never can get the blood down to those, right? And your toes perhaps as well. Well, it's not only the eastern lakes that are seeing snow coming in. We also have a system that is making its way through Iowa and will head eastbound. That's just kind of the appetizer to the big show that we're going to see next week. 1 to 3 inches of snow for the most part. Of course, elevation always can just squeeze out a touch more. We've had a snow squall warning on this system for the last several hours, bringing some of that snow and breezy conditions. The winds aren't too terrible with this. They've been around 15 miles an hour, but it's just made a mess of I-80 for us here and the roads that it's been kind of just snowing out over them and covering them and making them just tough to drive in. So that's something that we've been watching for. You can still see 1 inch an hour snowfall rates at times with that little blob coming through. And notice the roads now east of Des Moines are a little on the messy side here. They're a little slick, and we didn't see that in the last couple hours. Everything was to the west of 35, but now as the system's moving east and will continue to do so, Reynolds, you can see the whole system as it goes through, kind of loses its oomph as it makes its way into the Ohio River Valley. West Virginia, though, of course, those mountains take out a little bit more.
Makes all the difference, no doubt. That
They're
movement.
Super caked in, which is good. Here's a look at that area of snow, this little bundle of snow coming through Des Moines. And by the way, this thing has been really causing problems. I-80 and the highways basically to the west of 35. Now, as you saw, it's bringing some snow to the highways and roadways east of there. If you're in Colfax, Newton, Marshalltown, Toledo, Oskaloosa, this is all headed in your direction, and it's holding together pretty decently. Temperatures at least aren't terrible, but with any sort of little wind, and the wind isn't too strong with this, around 15 miles an hour, but even that will be problematic. Look at the visibility. If you remember, we showed you this a little while ago, and along 35, we were at 10 miles visibility, so you had plenty of visibility. Ames, we're now at 1/4. Des Moines at 3/4. Creston down to 1 1/4. And we've seen anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow come down from Carroll all the way east of I-35 for us. Roads are not looking great, South Dakota, Nebraska, and now they're starting to look pretty rough here, a little slick. If you head east of Des Moines, especially I-80 and points just to the north, that's where we have the worst of it. This little bundle of energy is going to be making its way through the Midwest, and it holds together, kinda. It's not going to really dump a lot of snow.